Dan Brophy met Nancy Crampton when Miss Crampton moved to Oregon and enrolled and attended the Culinary Institute in the early 90s. Dan Brophy was her instructor. The two started dating, and within a couple of years, and enough convincing by Miss Crampton, the two were married by 1999. They bought their first house in 1999, and they lived in their modest home in a suburb of Portland until Dan's death in June of 2018. Although Dan Brophy had a child, now an adult, from a previous marriage, Dan Brophy and now Nancy Brophy never had any children. They also did not have anyone in their lives when Dan died that depended on the Brophy's financially. Over the years, Nancy worked as a caterer. She sold life insurance and life insurance products, or other insurance products. But she also wrote romance novels. Nancy wrote and published several books over the years. None of them really led to much financial success. As time went by, Nancy seemed to focus more on selling insurance. While that's not going on, Dan Brophy continued his employment at the Oregon Culinary Institute. He worked at other culinary schools over the years, but at the time of his death, he was working at the Oregon Culinary Institute. He was a lead chef instructor there, but he also had other employment at a care facility called Avenir, where he was a cook as a favor to a friend who needed some help in the kitchen. On the surface, the Brophies appeared to their friends and family to be a couple in love who are entering the next stage in life. After leading what Nancy would later tell detectives was a simple life. To Dan Brophy, that simple life was raising chickens and tending to a garden where he grew spices. And he would take these spices to school and sell them to his students for a pretty nominal price. Dan was content with Nancy running the household, because Dan Brophy would refer to Nancy as management, a role that Nancy Brophy gladly accepted. The financial struggles really began to develop in 2016 as the two struggled to pay their $1,530 mortgage starting in June of that year. At one point, they even drained their only retirement account, a 401k, that had about $35,000 in it. And they also took a $5,000 loan on a life insurance policy. They used that money to catch up on the mortgage, to pay for home renovations, landscaping, pay the IRS, pay for some travel, housekeeping, storage, and Miss Brophy spent about $1,500 of that money on guns and gun parts. They were also spending well over $1,000 each month on life insurance premiums. Due to a pattern of overspending, they were on track again to be in financial despair within months. By late 2017, financial despair evident and no end in sight, as their mortgage just continued to rise due to a mortgage rate increase. Nancy started researching and planning the murder of Dan Brophy. Nancy started first by researching ghost guns online. Ghost guns are available for purchase online. They are marketed as unserialized, unregistered, and untraceable firearms. They sell them as a kit online. And what this kit is the lower frame of the gun that requires some knowledge and skill to be able to build it. However, the slide and barrel that comes with the ghost gun kit is fully intact and ready for use. Ms. Brophy visited the Ghost Guns website on November 27th, 2017, and again on December 12th, 2017. Then on Christmas Eve of 2017, Nancy Brophy, once again, while Dan Brophy was just getting off of work at Avenir, visited the Ghost Guns website. But this time she didn't just visit. This time she purchased a Glock 19 9mm Ghost Gun build kit. That build kit was delivered in early January 2018. And it was later found by police when they searched a storage unit rented by Nancy Brophy. When the police located it, it did not appear that Nancy Brophy ever built it. It became apparent that it required a level of skill to build that Nancy Brophy simply did not possess. By late January 2018, Nancy was once again searching for information regarding Glocks, including whether or not a Glock had a kickback when fired, as well as searching videos regarding Glock 19 Ghost Guns. Apparently unable to complete the build of the Ghost Gun kit, Nancy Brophy once again returned to her online research, where she searched for gun shops in the Portland area. And on February 15th, 2018, she was searching for a Portland Expo gun show. On February 17th, Nancy visited the Portland Expo gun show alone, while Dan Brophy was at work at the Culinary Institute. At the gun show, instead of a Glock 19 9mm like she had purchased from Ghost Guns, this time she purchased a completed Glock 17 9mm. And the seller gave Nancy Brophy written directions on the back of the receipt to a public gun range out off of Highway 26 towards the Oregon coast. 2 days later, forensic evidence will show that Nancy was again searching for a Glock 17 for sale online. That search took Nancy to eBay, where she set up an eBay account and started shopping for a Glock 17 slide and barrel. By February 23rd, Nancy had won an auction for a Glock 17 slide and barrel. That slide and barrel arrived at Nancy's home on February 28th, 2018. Shortly after that, Nancy deleted her eBay account. Investigators determined that the slide and barrel that Nancy Brophy had purchased from eBay would fit perfectly on the lower frame of the gun that she had purchased from the gun show. You'll hear from forensic scientist Leland Samuelson in this case, who will tell you that the slide and barrel is what leaves what he will call tool marks on the shell casings when bullets are fired from a gun. And that it is the comparison of shell casings fired from the same slide and barrel that would result in a match. He will tell you that if you shoot a gun and then swap the slide and barrel, the shell casings markings would not be a match on a comparison. The evidence will show you that Nancy possibly attempted to use the Ghost Gun slide and barrel, the fully intact Ghost Gun slide and barrel, to swap out with the gun show slide and barrel. And that she possibly just made a mistake. You see, the Glock 19 and the Glock 17, both 9mm firearms, look incredibly similar. In fact, the only difference in the two guns is that one of them has a slightly shorter barrel.
By the time Nancy Brophy could have realized that she could not use the ghost gun slide and barrel on the gun show gun, she turned to the internet to find another slide and barrel that could replace the gun show gun slide and barrel. As I said, that eBay slide and barrel that she purchased would fit on the gun that she purchased from the gun show. And that eBay purchase, that slide and barrel that she purchased, that is the only firearm or firearm part that law enforcement did not uncover in this investigation, despite the fact that they executed search warrants on Nancy Brophy's home, her public storage unit, and the 2 pods that she rented for storage. Leland Samuelson will conclude that Nancy Brophy did not use the slide and barrel from the ghost gun in this homicide, nor did she use the slide and barrel that came with the gun that she purchased from the gun show. However, since law enforcement was unable to recover the slide and barrel that she purchased on eBay, Leland Samuelson is prevented from doing a comparison to that slide and barrel. Now, by February 28th, once the eBay slide and barrel had arrived, Nancy had everything she needed at that point to carry out and conceal the murder, except the experience of shooting a firearm. After returning from a short trip in mid-March, Nancy got up on a Monday morning and started researching how to load a Glock 9mm. She found herself on YouTube that morning with access to numerous videos instructing the viewer on how to load Glock 9mm. Later that same morning, after she was done with her research, Nancy's phone can then be tracked leaving her and Dan Brophy's home in Beaverton and heading westbound on Highway 26. Now, Nancy's phone in the past has made the same journey, as it appears that Nancy would frequent the Oregon coast. However, on March 26th, Nancy Brophy's phone does not go all the way to the coast. Instead, it stops somewhere along the way, and cell site evidence will show you that Nancy's phone was hitting off of a tower that serviced that same public shooting range that had been provided that she had been provided directions by the gun broker from the gun show. Now, it doesn't appear that morning that she had much time to even shoot that morning before she had to return to Portland for lunch. However, Nancy returned to that same area the very next morning on March 27, 2018. And it appears that she did remain in the area long enough in order for somebody to fire a gun. You're going to hear about how this range is set up, how it's public and open, and that you simply just have to drive up a gravel road, park on the side, get out, and begin shooting downrange without any need to interact with anyone. Both of these trips that she took up there on the 26th and 27th were both done while Dan Brophy was at work at the Oregon Culinary Institute. Now, by June 2nd, Nancy had purchased the necessary firearms and parts to carry out and conceal the murder, as well as now had an opportunity to practice with the gun and further educate herself online about the assembly, disassembly, and cleaning of a Glock. Nancy left her home early that Saturday morning on June 2nd, and is first seen on surveillance video downtown near the Oregon Culinary Institute at about 6:39 a.m. You'll see heading here eastbound on Jefferson, minivan being driven by Nancy Brophy. She is then seen on numerous cameras around the area of the Oregon Culinary Institute. You'll get to see all of those videos. She's seen on several of those videos until she's finally seen coming down Columbia, turning on to 17th at about 7:08. She's not seen again on camera until 7:28. I believe the evidence will show you that she remained within this area during that time, between 7:08 and 7:28. Otherwise, she would have been caught on the various other cameras leaving the area. Now at 7:20, we can see Dan Brophy coming into town near the Oregon Culinary Institute. And this is the view of that camera up this way at Jefferson. You'll see a white pickup truck coming into frame. That is the white pickup truck being driven by Dan Brophy. Now he turns on the 20th or 19th and comes in to the Oregon Culinary Institute from that direction. Dan parks his truck on 17th Avenue, right near Jefferson, right in front of the Culinary Institute. You'll see his white pickup truck on the picture on the left. That is a picture taken from the crime scene. And again, that's where he's parked, right in front of the Culinary Institute. I want you to take the picture on the right up on the screen. Now, this is just a Google Map image of the Culinary Institute. But what you can see, I'll stand up here. There's a man door there and a roll-up garage door, both that go into the Culinary Institute. Oh, thank you. A lot easier. And what we know is at 7:22 a.m. and 30 seconds, Dan enters through this door and he disables the alarm. He's the first person there that morning. And once he goes in, he goes around and he opens that roll-up door. Now here on Exhibit 1, you'll see this is the layout of the Culinary Institute. It's a large building that takes up this whole portion of the block in that area. This is that side door that I talked about Mr. Brophy entering. Side door on 17. His car being parked somewhere, his pickup being parked somewhere over here. This is that roll-up door that you can see in the photo over there. Again, that door was now open sometime after 7:22 a.m. With that door open, Mr. Brophy is able to unload some larger objects from his pickup and easily carry them inside. Now at that time, Nancy Brophy would have had the opportunity to walk through this roll-up door and enter a building that she had been to several times in the past. A building that she was very familiar with, knowing the layout, knowing that there were no cameras inside or out, and even knowing the other employees' schedules. That would allow Ms. Brophy the opportunity to enter through the storeroom, navigate the labyrinth that is the Oregon Culinary Institute, and find Dan in the very back of the school in Kitchen 1. Dan was standing at a sink, a commercial sink. He was filling up the ice and water buckets as he did every day for the students.
Obviously, we have a little glitch in our signal there. How we wish technology was perfect, but as you can see, it's not. While we try to get that corrected, just want to mention a couple things. I was just commenting on Twitter how effective it is when you see a prosecutor put together a PowerPoint presentation like this one. It's not boring, it's detailed, it's really dynamic looking, detailing Nancy Brophy's actions the day her husband was murdered. That video is unfrozen now. So let's go back into the courtroom together.
Standing about right here. Nancy shot him first in the back. Penetrating his spine and piercing through his heart. After Dan fell onto his back, possibly paralyzed from the first shot, Nancy fired one more round into his chest, also piercing through Dan's heart. The medical examiner concluded that either shot could have been fatal. 2 9mm shell casings were recovered from the scene near Dan's body. Those 2 shell casings had consistent markings, as you'll hear from Leland Samuelson, as if they were fired from a Glock. Minutes later, at 7:28 a.m., Nancy can be seen once again on surveillance video, turning off of 17th Avenue in front of the Culinary Institute and onto Jefferson. She drives out of town towards her home. Nancy is then seen.
All right, we need to squeeze in a break, so don't worry, we're hitting the pause button. You're not going to miss a moment of these opening statements. Tweet us, let us know what you think so far of the state's open in the romance novelist murder trial.
Johnny was hitting me, and he was hitting me hard and repeatedly.
Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard.
This is going to be one of those big trials to watch.
You have these big celebrities that are going to be testifying.
Their reputations are at stake.
Johnny Depp was not successful across the pond, but he's got a second bite of the apple, this time in the United States.
Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Live coverage starting next Monday at 9/8 Central on Court TV.
That trial will be huge. Welcome back to Court TV Live this Monday afternoon. The opening statements are underway in our latest live case. It is the romance novelist murder trial. The defendant is 71-year-old Nancy Brophy. She's accused of murdering her husband of 26 years. Now, before the crime took place, Brophy authored an essay titled How to Murder Your Husband. Prosecutor Sean Overstreet is delivering his opening statement right now, detailing the final moments of victim Daniel Brophy's life. You haven't missed a minute. Let's go back in.
Home a short time later by neighbors. They noted that she seemed distressed and kind of frantic. Nancy Brophy was claiming that she was looking for her dogs that had gotten out. However, the neighbors did not see any dogs. Nancy eventually returned home. The first call that morning came in at 9:54 a.m. from a good friend of Nancy's and Dan's, Maxine Bourjarding. Miss Bourjarding told Nancy that something had happened at the Oregon Culinary Institute, and there was a lot of police down there. Miss Brophy gets off the phone with Miss Bourjarding, and she calls Dan Brophy's phone 2 times. She also sends a text. She never tried to call him or text him again. Nancy Brophy then speaks to Miss Bourjarding several times, calling each other back and forth for about the next 10 minutes. Nancy Brophy then calls Karen Brophy. That's Dan Brophy's mother. As Miss Brophy explains to Karen Brophy that something has happened, Karen Brophy becomes concerned and asked why Nancy Brophy is not going to the Culinary Institute, why she has not left her house. And Nancy Brophy said something along the lines of, because there's going to be too much police activity down there. A short time later, Nancy Brophy did decide to finally drive down to the Culinary Institute. She arrived down there at about 10:28 a.m. About 20 minutes later, at 10:47 a.m., detectives conducted what they call a death notification. That is when there is a homicide of some sort, they will meet with the next of kin and explain that their loved one has died. The detectives recorded that death notification. And in that death notification, Nancy told detectives that she was home all morning. She even went on to explain the interactions that she had with Dan that morning.
And I was going to ask you, when you said Dan woke up, he's an early riser, has his routine, walks the dog, feeds the chickens. So this morning, did you wake up at the same time or after him, or how'd that go?
I didn't sleep well, and I don't know why I didn't sleep well, but I'm to that age. So I woke up when he came up for a shower. So that would have been 6:50, 6:45.
And you said because he was getting a shower, that's when you woke up? Okay.
And he used to shower downstairs.
And then, so after he got his shower this morning, though,
he managed to, he didn't need a spotter.
Okay. So, and then when did you see him after that? Did you have breakfast with him? What happened after that?
I didn't get out of bed.
Oh, you just kind of woke up and you were alert in bed.
Yeah,
okay.
And we have, our bedroom is an attic, and so the bathroom's right here, and so, he got dressed and left.
Did he say, did you guys talk before he left or anything like that?
About the water leak.
It was about 7 minutes to that same conversation where detectives finally broke the news to her.
I just want to let you know that, we believe, Dan, we believe it's Dan that has been killed. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of got that when everybody gave me the sad sack look.
Yeah.
The reaction that she kind of figured. Nancy went on to explain during that same conversation that everyone loved Dan. She can't think of a single person who would want to hurt him. However, it's not until 10 minutes into this conversation that Nancy finally asks, what happened? And it's not until 47 minutes into the conversation that Nancy finally asks where Dan is. During the conversation, when asked if Dan and Nancy Brophy owned any guns, Miss Brophy disclosed that she had bought a Glock 17 at the gun show several months prior, and that she thought maybe that it was a 9mm, that sounded right, and that they bought the gun in response to recent school shootings. She said that when she got that gun home, it wasn't something she wanted anymore. So instead of attempting to return it or sell it, she decided that it was too heavy and too ugly and that she just was going to put it away. She put it back in the case, put it up in a closet, and never even bought ammo for it. That same conversation, even when asked about firearms, Nancy failed to mention that she had purchased a ghost gun build kit online. She also failed to mention that she purchased a slide and barrel from eBay. Now, after the death notification concluded, and you will get to hear the entirety of that death notification. Detective Merrill enlisted the help of two other detectives, Detective Broughton and Detective Beniga. Now, Detective Merrill had asked Detective Broughton and Detective Beniga to accompany Nancy Brophy back to her home to ensure that the firearm that they had purchased at the gun show was still there, as the detectives at that time were concerned that maybe Dan Brophy had brought the gun with him to the school because he was worried about something. Now, Nancy Brophy believed that the gun was still at home and intact, so she agreed, and Detective Broughton actually drove Miss Brophy back to her home in her own minivan, so that she didn't have to drive after just learning that her husband had been shot to death. When they got back to the house, Nancy Brophy went straight to the closet, straight to where she believed the gun had been, and in fact it was there. And she handed the gun case over to Detective Broughton. Now, Detective Broughton and Detective Beniga took photographs of that gun before they collected it, and the condition that it was in when given to them by Miss Brophy. And what they noticed, as you can see in the big circle here, is that slide barrel is not seated appropriately on that firearm. Meaning, that gun is not ready to be loaded and fired.
All right, we're going to hit the pause button right there. Let me bring in to say goodbye and thank you, Attorney Greg Isaac, standing by in Tennessee. Greg, before we let you go, what do you think of the states open so far, please?
All right, let me in. Thanks.
Greg, before we let you go, tell me, what do you think of the states open so far, please?
Well, Julie, it's really interesting. When the prosecution goes to their notes and starts reading, I think he kind of loses everybody. He looks down, body language totally different. He gets untethered from the podium and goes to the PowerPoint and the exhibits, and it's incredibly powerful. You paint a very persuasive timeline of how Nancy Crampton Brophy acted that night, the video of her van, the culinary school diagram. So actually, this circumstantial case based on that opening has gotten much more powerful. So I think excellent job by the state.
Yes. Greg Isaacs, thank you so much for coming on Court TV Live today. We'll look forward to seeing you again very soon. We're going to squeeze in a break. Don't worry, you're not going to miss a moment of these opening statements in the romance novelist murder trial. Thank you for being with us here on Court TV Live.
At joincalibrate.com.
This is Court TV Live, your front row seat to justice. I'm your midday host, Julie Grant. Thank you for spending part of your Monday afternoon with us. We're following developments in 3 major trials happening this afternoon in different places across the country. First up, in New Jersey, testimony is underway in the case of the former equestrian Olympian accused of 2 counts of attempted homicide. Michael Barrasone is the defendant in this case. That's him sitting there. The jury just came back from their lunch break. This case is picking back up, and it'll be time for the defense side of things. If he wants to present evidence, that is his right, but the defense doesn't have to put on a shred of evidence. You know that from watching Court TV Live, and if you'd like to watch this trial in its entirety, we've got it for you. It's streaming on courttv.com. We also have a crew in Florida as jury selection is underway in the sentencing phase for convicted Parkland school shooter Nicholas Cruz. We'll have developments coming for you throughout the day. Our Julia Janae is there. She joined us a short time ago. No jury seated yet. This is going to be quite a lengthy process, as she shared with us. We expect several weeks, actually, to get a fair and impartial jury to hear the mitigating evidence his team will be putting on to try to convince the jury to spare his life. And of course, we're starting a brand new trial today. The romance novelist murder trial. That one happening in Portland, Oregon. The defendant is 71-year-old Nancy Brophy, accused of murdering her husband, a beloved chef in Portland. His name is Daniel Brophy. We're going to go back in exactly where we left off in our last hour before the break. We're seeing the opening statements happening right now. The prosecutor was just detailing one of the firearms that Nancy Brophy purchased ahead of her husband's killing. Let's watch.
They noticed, and they'll use a term called out of battery. This gun seems to be out of battery. And what that means is when that slide is not fully seated, that means it's been manipulated. That means that when that slide and barrel had been removed, when it was replaced, it was not properly set. Something you'll hear from the gun broker who sold her the gun. They would not have let the gun leave when purchased in that condition, meaning it was not ready to be made safe. Now, while Detective Broughton and Detective Beniga were at the Brophy home, Detective Merrill and Detective Posey were searching the area around the Oregon Culinary Institute for surveillance video. They went across the street to Bellagio's Pizza, roughly located around this area, kind of across from the Oregon Culinary Institute. And it had a camera angle that pointed north. As they watched that video, they recognized a minivan that they thought was visually consistent with Nancy Brophy's minivan, because they had just seen her with it downtown minutes prior. As they continued watching this video, they realized that this van actually passes, heading this direction, heading westbound, 2 separate times that morning. The first at 7:08, and the second, 7:28. Now, detectives knew that the next instructor had arrived at about 7:35 at the Culinary Institute. And detectives knew that Dan had disabled the alarm at 7:22 and 30 seconds. So now they had a window of opportunity for someone to kill Dan. They had about a 13-minute window, and as they're watching this video, they realized that it appears that Nancy Brophy is leaving the area of the Culinary Institute and heading out of town at 7:28, right in the middle of their window. After seeing that, Detective Merrill contacted Detective Beniga, who was still out at Miss Brophy's home. Detective Merrill requested that Detective Beniga take a photograph of the minivan and text it to him. Detective Beniga took several shots of the minivan on different angles. And when Miss Brophy saw that Detective Beniga was doing that, she immediately questioned him as to why he would need photographs of her van, because she wasn't at the Culinary Institute that morning. So what's the need? Detective Beniga nonetheless took the photographs and sent them on to Detective Merrill. Detective Merrill then compared that still shot on the left that Detective Beniga had taken. You can see him kind of in the reflection. What Detective Merrill noticed immediately was there's this large gouge in the picture that Detective Beniga sent. Compared to the photograph or the still shot that he's looking at in Bellagio's video, Detective Merrill believes there's a visually consistent mark in that minivan. Now Detective Merrill believed that this was in fact the minivan that Nancy Brophy was driving around that morning, and is the same minivan that he's seeing in the video. However, that was a direct contradiction to what Nancy Brophy just told them less than an hour prior during the death notification. When she was at home, and as you heard, further elaborated on the conversations and interactions that she had with Dan Brophy that morning. June 6th, 2018, just 4 days after the murder. When Detective Posey was speaking with Nancy Brophy, Nancy Brophy asked a question that Detective Posey has never been asked before.
Okay.
I don't want to do, but this may give you a laugh this afternoon. I don't want to be the stupid question of the day, but I think I need to be the stupid question of the day.
Okay.
My insurance company said, well, just have the detective write a letter that you're no longer a suspect. And I said, man, I just don't know that he's there. And I'm not sure that he looks at it that way. But if you do, I'd get you to write the letter. My sister, when I told her this as a lawyer, laughed so hard she fell out of the chair. So.
Why?
Because.
Why would you need that?
Because they don't want to pay if it turns out that I secretly went down to the school and shot my husband because I thought, hey, going into old age without Dan after 25 years, it's really what I'm looking for, you know?
Okay. Well, we never would do something like that. I
really didn't think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something that we never do something like that. That's never been done. I've never heard of that being done.
I was shocked when he told me this. And the other thing he says, I said, so what happens if, in fact, based upon your, and this is such a stupid little policy. I can't believe they're making me jump through the hoops like this. This is only $40,000. And as my sister said, you know, usually when they do that, it's for millions. And I said, yeah, we weren't insured for millions. But the other thing is, I said, what happens if, in fact, this case never gets resolved? And they said, well, that has to go to up to the supervisors to be evaluated. And I'm thinking, great.
It's a little quiet.
But when this woman asked for this today, I thought.
It's a little quiet, but essentially what Miss Brophy was asking Detective Posey to do was to write a letter exonerating her from the murder, that she was no longer a suspect. And Miss Brophy's requesting this letter apparently, as she made a point to say that it's just a little $40,000 policy. She can't believe that she's being made jump through these hoops. However, as the investigation would later reveal, Nancy made claims on 10 separate life insurance policies in which she was the beneficiary of over $1.4 million. Detectives also discovered other financial incentives, as Nancy would have been entitled to all the equity in their home, as well as a workers' comp claim that would have paid because Dan was killed at his place of work. Through financial records, detectives discovered that Nancy Brophy was maintaining all those life insurance policies while continuing down a path of financial ruin. Investigators discovered, as I said, well over $1,000 per month was being paid into these policies at a time that they were struggling to even pay their mortgage. In fact, on certain months, foregoing to pay their mortgage. As you'll see throughout this trial, the investigation was wide and extensive. And based on the scene, detectives knew from the beginning that this was not a burglary, this was not a robbery, as the Oregon Culinary Institute was void of any evidence of those crimes. Nothing was out of place, as you'll see in the photographs and hear testimony from students and faculty, and nothing was missing. Despite the valuable items that are inside the Culinary Institute, nothing was missing, including things that Dan had on his person, his wallet, his keys that were left on a table near the door, his cell phone, his watch, cash. None of it was touched. Eventually, all of the evidence and all of the leads the detectives followed up with all pointed back to Nancy Brophy, which resulted in her arrest on September 5th, 2018. As the officers placed the handcuffs on the wrist of a 68-year-old woman who had never been arrested before, she simply stated, "Oh, you must think I killed my husband." At the conclusion of the evidence, in this case, I will be asking you to return a verdict of guilty for the single charge of murder for the actions of Nancy Brophy on June 2nd, 2018, when she executed what she perhaps believed to be the perfect plan, when she ended the life of beloved chef Daniel Brophy. Thank you. Your Honor.